We today welcome back a special guest on the Inspire channel, Greg the Hydrogen Man. Thank you so much for joining us again today. It's wonderful that you're here. By the way, Greg, this is hydrogen water. Our lives are really beginning to change. Greg made it possible for us to get a hydrogen machine and taught us a lot about it. And we're drinking this every day. It's absolutely increasing our well-being, our health. It's a wonderful thing. Greg, this is a very, very powerful thing, hydrogen. And I know you have a lot of wonderful success stories to share with hydrogen.
Oh man, it's been really wild since the last conversation, and I'm already starting to get the testimonials coming in. So many of them are they're so heart touching. I mean, this is the greatest thing in life, in my opinion, when we can do good things for others and help others and change people's lives. The way that hydrogen obviously has changed my life. And one of the wonderful ones that came in was a woman who has dementia, and her daughter got her the hydrogen machine. And in Japan, they are doing actually studies on dementia and the effects of hydrogen on it. But the way that it affected her mother was it was so dramatic. She literally sent me pictures, and I made a video of it over on my YouTube channel. And you can see the difference in every week or every so many weeks. It was dramatic. People were really blown away by it. And she obviously emailed me, and she even asked, she goes, "Are these normal results?" Because she said, "This is crazy." She was shocked. It was really nice.
The lady, her mother that has dementia, I've seen the pictures. We're going to put them on screen here so people can see them too. What are the inner effects or what are the behavioral effects that it had on her?
She did it right. And she was holding her utensil, could feed herself. She could speak without slurring. She was walking way too much. In fact, they were trying to get her to sit down. And she definitely did not have that glazed look over her eyes. Again, as you said in the pictures, you can see her smiling and looking so different. It's life. That's what hydrogen is. It's the life molecule, and it brings life back into the body. And it was so beautiful, man. And that was, you were part of that, so it was just so great.
It's our great honor and pleasure today to welcome Deb and Barre Lando of Alpha Vedic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Really an honor to be here with you. And the audience loved you when you were on with us just recently here. So thanks for that. And we've been looking forward to this.
Same here, Barre and Deb. Self-sustainable lifestyle. How did that start for you? What triggered it? Where was the beginning of it all?
I think the beginning of it, well, we came from ranching families, first of all. So you didn't grow up in the 50s. Still in the 50s, people had pantries with food. There was always something, just in case something happened, there was an emergency. So it was part of the lifestyle, even in California, believe it or not. And so having that ingrained in our early years, then when Barre and I got together, we decided at one point that we would become caretakers for a Girl Scout camp way back in the mountain range of, east of Napa Valley, the wine country back then, which was very, not much in population. And that made us even more aware. So we started to do our homework. Someone had come out with a book about how to turn your swimming pool in an urban area, in case there was problems. So we just sort of always kept our ear to the ground. And from there, we've had, as I said earlier when we were speaking, this is our fourth location off grid. Now, we haven't always been off grid, but that self-sustainability, that, I guess, to me, it's more about being independent and not being waiting, what if the trucks don't show up?
Because of popular demand, your comments, your messages, and because we enjoyed it so much, we're welcoming back Flat Earth David Weiss. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Pleasure to be back here. Love having a conversation with you.
I would remember being taught that that Earth moves through space at a speed of 60-something thousand miles, right, per hour.
66,600 to be exact.
Well, yeah, interesting number too. But so we shoot through space 66,600 miles per hour, right? All the time, all day, every day. That's our speed through space. Yet when I go out at night, every night, like clockwork, I see the same star constellations right in the same place. And I mean, people have tried to explain this to me with mainstream science. I still don't understand it. Can you help me understand why I see what I see, even though we're apparently moving like crazy through space?
Yeah, so supposedly we're moving 66,000 miles an hour in an elliptical orbit around the sun, chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour, while spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. But you go out, and I encourage everybody, go out tonight at a certain time, take a certain spot, take a picture of the sky, and then a year later, same night, same time, go out and take the same picture and compare the stars. Every star will be in the exact same position.
Okay, but if you go out a year later, mainstream science will tell you we've come around to the same place. Take the picture in 2 months.
But that'll be at a different time, though, because the stars shift throughout the year.
But still, they don't shift enough.
But we're traveling 4.5 billion miles every year. Go out, in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, they're still the same. The stars should never stay the same. But here's another thing. Here's the thing. Imagine you get a long pipe, a 5-foot long pipe, just, with a hole about that big. And you look through it and you try to look at a star or even just a distant object on the earth, right? It's really hard to hold that steady, right? The tiniest movement will move it. Like we did a laser experiment across a lake, and they're going like 26 miles, and they're trying to move the laser, and the tiniest fraction of a move of the laser, which you can barely perceive if you're on the laser side, moves it a mile on the other side. The tiniest little movement, right? So you're familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, right?
Yes.
So the Georgia Guidestones have a little hole right in the middle here. It's like that pipe. And if you look through it, Polaris is there. Since it was built, it's still there today.
I started looking for, well, what does God really mean when he wants us to be free? So you start going back not only through the Bible, but you pair the Bible with our founding fathers' documents, which invoke the term creator 4 times in there. And you start to understand that those documents could not have existed if it were not for the Bible and for what the Word of God is about. So you start to explore this. I was very fortunate. I got a phone call from a friend of mine who ran for Senate in 2018, Bobby Lawrence. He was running for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. He stepped down from as a leading candidate going into the primary to pursue this because he felt so strongly about the significance of it. And once he understood that what we have in Washington, D.C., effective in 1871, when they incorporated those 10 square miles and made that whole district a corporation, they're insulated now. If you're a business person, right? I'm an independent sole proprietor and I decide I don't want liability exposure for me and Vandersteel, I can incorporate and put a shell company around myself, which gives me a liability shield. Well, that's what they've done in Washington, D.C., to the U.S. Congress, to the legislative branch, to all of it, the DOD, all of it. They're all incorporated. So they have a liability shield in effect to protect them from us. You wonder why no one ever goes to jail? Well, there you go. They're protected inside a corporate bubble. So when I start to understand that, I realize these people aren't working for us. They're not our public servants. So I started this journey in 2021, right after J6. The Reawaken tour happened, and I started to spend more time researching it. And because of Bobby, he pointed me in the right direction for a lot of things. Understanding the corporate liability shield, the 14th Amendment, I started to recognize there is a lot more to this than what I understand. And there's a lot more lies that we've been told and misunderstandings of our history.
Today, we welcome back a previous guest that blew our minds. He blew your minds, and you requested his return. So we welcome back author, researcher, and dimensional surfer, Jason Breshears from Archaix. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Man, I'm glad to be here. I don't believe I've ever been introduced as one of those before, but I'll take it.
People that first get in contact with just the idea of this reality being a simulation, this oftentimes is too much all at once. And people have asked us specific questions. They said, we would love to learn more about AIX, about the 138-year interval between resets and the resets themselves. And of course, the next one, 2046. So this is kind of I'm giving you a broad opening to introduce all of it to perhaps new viewers today.
these chronological timelines are amazing. One of them is like a heartbeat of the world. It's based off the fine structure constant. It is 138 years. Every 138 years, our world goes through either soft or hard resets. Now, a soft reset is when there's editing done in our reality and strange things occur, but they're not really noticeable until in retrospect. When people get to talking 10, 20 years later and say, hey, man, do you remember such and such? And people don't, and a whole body of individuals don't have a clue what you're talking about. But there are some people who do remember exactly what you're talking about. These soft edits they're all throughout history, and they happen every 138 years, like something is governing over reality and making sure some information's maintained in some type of integrity in our infrastructure, and we remember and carry that information in the future. But other information, other knowledges are very, very slick, just edited out. And it's not just, now this is a soft reset. Hard resets are major cataclysmic and geographic changes, but also socio-political changes, massive changes that erupt, like in 1764 and in 1902. Those are the last two 138-year periods. And both of those saw great changes in our world. I have like 5 videos just on 1902 alone. In 1764 began a massive demographic change throughout Europe and the Western world, which was the sudden fall and collapse of almost all the monarchies and the sudden birth and start of all the democracies and republics in all the European countries started in 1764. And that's when the Patriot movement started, 1764, Boston Tea Party, and the United States began its trek toward independence. So from events that stemmed in 1764. But these soft resets are like that. They're easily detectable fundamental changes. And in 1902, we had hundreds of companies appear out of nowhere, scores of inventions like air conditioning, all kinds of things that suddenly appeared all together in one single year, 1902, that were all released into the public, as if all this material has been somewhere else sequestered. And then for some reason, somebody in 1902 decided to release it all into the public sector. And the next period of the next time is May of 2040. So imagine being able to construct the history of the world in 138-year intervals. And so we can naturally project the next one's going to be 2040. But at the same token, this did not answer for some other enigmas that are in the historical record they defy explanation. And I found a 792-year periodicity of another phenomenon, and it's evil. It is absolutely cataclysmic. There's nothing good about it. Every time it appeared, it first appears in the sky and it wreaks destruction all over the world. And it's every 792 years. Now, the history of the world in 792-year segments is also very interesting. So I wrote a book called Chronicon, 510 pages, where I put both of these together, and it basically answers for most of the mysteries and cataclysms and resets and the rise and fall of empires, civilizations throughout recorded history. That's in Chronicon. But it shows that for the first time in recorded history, both of these phenomena are going to happen almost at the exact same time.
And today we have back on the show here our good friend, visionary, and CEO of Food Forest Abundance, Jim Gale. Thank you so much for joining us again today. You founded Food Forest Abundance, which, by now is known to our audience. But you said, I want to make it as easy as possible for people to take the first step, whether they have $20 or $2 billion. Like you said, I want to make this as easy as possible. So how can people get started on this journey? What do you see works the best for people?
Well, it works the best to, first of all, realize that there is a design science out there that has been proven. This is not a hypothetical solution that I would like to bring to your awareness. Permaculture, which stands for permanent agriculture or permanent culture, has proven the solutions to all of these massive problems around the world. And one of the things I'd like to go back to just a little bit is there are about 10 million hectares, which is 25 million acres of land of forests are cut every year. We are going through a mass
25 million acres. That's incredible.
Acres. It's mind-blowing. And I've lived all over the world. I lived in Costa Rica 12 years and all these different places. Costa Rica is incredibly rich in diversity, and yet they use more pesticides and poisons per hectare of land than most other countries in the world. It's wicked because they believe in the narrative. Now, their president, which is just a side note, he just came out against glyphosate recently, which to me is beautiful. So when I'm researching deforestation and mass extinction, which go hand in hand, right? And the poisons are a fundamental part of all of that. There's 900 million acres of farmland in the United States, 900 million acres. If we took half of the lawns, there's 44 million acres of lawn. If we took half of the lawn and we put perennial edible landscapes up and chicken tractors, and we use that land wisely, we could feed 200 million people on just the lawn. In fact, if we took 2/3 of the lawn, we could feed everybody in the United States. And what would happen to the farmland, which is responsible for the majority of this deforestation? It would go back to nature.
And Jim, it's not just deforestation. It's the poisons in our food also cause depopulation. Fertility rates go down. It is now proven that all these poisons are making us infertile, and the birth rates go down, and we're facing societal collapse. So that's why we say growing real food in a real natural system without the poisons and the fertilizers is actually one of the most profound solutions for all the problems that we keep talking about. It all leads back to this.
So we offer this to anybody. If you've got $20 and you don't have anything extra, but you need to go buy food with that $20, we can teach you how to go to the store and how to use that $20 to buy the right foods. And then you can use those foods to propagate a whole garden. It's just amazing. Well, you can count the seeds in a single apple, but you cannot count the apples in a single seed. It's infinite. So if you've got $2 billion, then let's put up food forest and Freedom Farm Academies all over the world, which is an incredible opportunity. In fact, it's the biggest opportunity in the history of humanity to help transform our world from rapidly dying to rapidly living again.
We're more dedicated than ever to provide authentic, truthful, and uncensored information and inspiration. That's why we created the Inspired community on the free speech platform Locals. There's no censorship, a free flow of information, and it's more personal and intimate. And you can join us as a free member or a paid supporter. Please visit inspired.locals.com and join us today.